Yes. Paul, I'd like to start with you. What do you make of Donald Tusk's statement? I mean, this is sort of indicative also about the sort of dysfunctionality of the EU as well.
I think it's largely the timing that's caught most people by surprise. Obviously, Donald Tusk is about to relinquish his post as President of the European Council. And I think he himself said that the responsibilities that he's about to give up and giving up those responsibilities allowed him that freedom, perhaps, to say some things that he wouldn't have said otherwise. And it's certainly caused a bit of a stir in the United Kingdom because we are in the middle of this election, which has been called about Brexit, although there are other issues as well. So it's really provided a bit of a boost to the Liberal Democrat Party because many of them are standing and have put on their ballot papers now that we have had the nominations that they're standing for the Liberal Democrat Party Stop Brexit. So he's given a real boost to the Liberal Democrats, but certainly from the Conservatives and the Labour side, they feel as though he shouldn't be interfering in another country's elections. Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, doesn't agree that Britain would ever be a second-rate player. And David Davis, who used to be a senior Conservative in the cabinet, also says that he thinks that Donald Tusk, rather like Obama or Trump, should stay out of other countries' internal affairs.
Indeed. Dave, I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Who do you think this strengthens? I mean, I imagine at some level this actually strengthens those who are pro-Brexit, doesn't it? Because it sort of proves that the EU doesn't even respect, a democratic referendum, for example, that took place within the United Kingdom.
Yeah, that's certainly one argument that people in favour of Brexit will make. But I think ultimately Donald Tusk, an EU establishment figure coming out against Brexit, will be a surprise to nobody and will change nobody's minds. It's a complete non-event in this election, really. Most people will either go, yes, we agree with what Tusk is saying, or roll their eyes and say, typical EU. Ultimately, it won't shift the dial in any meaningful way.
Frank, what are your thoughts on this? Because, again, I imagine this sort of goes against all diplomatic rules, really, or just norms when it comes to relations between the EU and the UK, especially at such a sensitive time.
Yeah, I would agree with what both speakers have said before me entirely. It's, of course, tempting to engage in these kinds of, call it election meddling if you want, on the way out, and if you suddenly have that freedom. But they hardly are helpful. They're typically counterproductive. On the one hand, yes, the Lib Dems in the United Kingdom will actually welcome it and see it as a vindication of their perspective. But as much as it does that, it will at the same time also fuel these kinds of things that the previous speaker have pointed to. The idea of, oh, here we go, you see the European Union is vindictive, or it's not. It's an imposition. How does it dare to meddle in our affairs? So I think upon reflection, I would hope that Donald Tusk will agree that this is not a very smart move. It helps nobody. I think it's sort of stooping to another level, if you could put it that way. I think the wisest position would be to keep professional, diplomatic, and perhaps even go the other way around and say, listen, it's a democratic right of any member state to lift Article 50, to want to leave the European Union. We are a democratic club, and if this is the wish of one member state to leave, then it has every right to do so. Whether the process was due respecting due diligence, I'm not so sure, and most people are not so sure, but that's a different matter altogether. And I think that would have been a more diplomatic, professional answer that would be accurate and also respectful, and perhaps also not be counterproductive.
So